Resident Evil is one of those franchises that never stays the same for long. It's reinvented itself multiple times, from fixed camera survival horror to full action, then back to slow first-person terror. And now with Resident Evil Requiem, conversation has started all over again. Some fans think this could be a return to pure horror. Others are already worried it might fall into familiar traps. So instead of guessing, let's break it down properly. What are people saying about the gameplay? How are they reacting to the story direction? Do the graphics actually feel next-gen? And most importantly, what are fans excited about, and what are they nervous about? Let's get into it. The first thing everyone looks at in a Resident Evil game is the gameplay tone. From early footage and discussions, one thing is clear. This isn't trying to be a full action shooter. A lot of players are happy with the slower pacing. It feels tense again. There's more emphasis on atmosphere and survival, which immediately reminds fans of ammo looks limited. Enemies don't go down easily. Movement feels deliberate instead of fast and flashy. And for longtime fans, that's a good sign. Many people still remember how action-heavy became. While some enjoyed it, others felt it drifted too far from the horror roots. With Requiem, the early reaction suggests Capcom is leaning back into tension instead of chaos. Players also like that encounters seem meaningful. It's not just waves of enemies. It feels more personal and claustrophobic. That's exactly what survival horror needs. Now here's where it gets interesting. Some fans think the movement looks slightly stiff. Not bad, just not as fluid as modern shooters. There's also concern that certain scenes feel heavily scripted. When horror becomes predictable, it loses impact. A few players are also worried that the pacing might be too slow. Survival horror walks a fine line. Too much action ruins tension, but too little can make it drag. And then there's the bigger question. Is this innovation, or is Capcom playing it safe? That debate is ongoing. Resident Evil stories are never simple. They start small, then somehow end with laboratories, secret organizations, and something mutating beyond recognition. So where does Requiem land? Fans are excited about the darker tone. There's less focus on global apocalypse and more on psychological dread. That shift reminds people of the original, where mystery mattered more than spectacle. If Requiem keeps the story contained and character-driven, many players believe it could hit harder emotionally. There's also appreciation for how the atmosphere feels grounded again. The horror seems intimate rather than explosive, and that intimacy is what made recent entries memorable, even when they went big. But expectations are high. Some fans worry about predictable twists. Resident Evil has used certain narrative formulas before: secret labs, betrayals, sudden mutations. Another concern is franchise continuity. The timeline is complex. Bringing in new threads without confusing longtime players is tricky. And of course, there's always fear of the over-the-top final act. Resident Evil games have a history of escalating dramatically in the last few hours. Players are hoping Requiem keeps its tone consistent instead of turning into pure spectacle. This might be the least controversial part of the discussion. The RE engine has been strong for years, and Requiem looks polished. Lighting is getting a lot of praise. Shadows feel heavy. Environments look oppressive and detailed. Character models appear realistic. Facial expressions seem more subtle compared to earlier entries. Textures look sharp. Indoor environments especially feel alive in a disturbing way. Atmosphere carries horror, and visually, this game seems to understand that. There are small criticisms. Some viewers feel certain animations look slightly rigid. A few think parts of the environment resemble previous titles, but overall, graphics are not the main issue here. Most players agree, visually, this game looks strong. Here's the real discussion happening in the community. Resident Evil changes constantly, from the fixed cameras of, to the action style of, to first-person horror in Resident Evil 7. Every shift divided fans at first, and almost every time, the franchise survived, sometimes even stronger than before. So when people debate Requiem, it's not just about gameplay mechanics or graphics quality. It's about identity. What should Resident Evil feel like 2026? Pure survival horror, balanced action horror, or something completely new? That's the tension behind every opinion. Right now, the reaction to Resident Evil Requiem isn't extreme love or extreme hate. It's cautious optimism. Fans like the darker tone. They appreciate the slower pacing. They respect the visual quality, but they're watching closely because this franchise has reinvented itself so many times. Expectations are massive. If Requiem delivers strong pacing, a tight story, and meaningful horror, it could easily stand among the best entries. If it leans too hard into spectacle or safe design choices, it might divide the fan base again. Either way, one thing thing is certain, people care, and that's always a good sign. So now I want to hear from you. Does Resident Evil Requiem look like a return to true survival horror, or are you still unsure about the direction?